You guys ready? So Brandon, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So I would like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission here this afternoon at 5:31 p.m. And first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we got a nice big room full of people. Thank you all for taking the time to make the trek down to the courthouse to meet with us this evening. My name's Hal Hutchinson. I'm the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to introduce the other commissioner members. To my immediate right is Commissioner Robert Grant. Immediate left is Commissioner Ray Schulte, and far left is Commissioner Chad McNutt. And we have on the phone our new Commissioner, Sabrina Kemper. So welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you. Sorry I can't be there in person.
We also have in attendance Deputy County Attorney Jared Holbrook. Shelby Trottier is our planning technician. Sean Gustafson from ECS Engineers is the contractor for planning services. I don't see Steve Granger. I don't know if he's here tonight. And I understand Commissioner Dave North was out in the hall. See him back here. So Dave is the liaison from the county commissioners to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So are there any other commissioners here tonight? Just you. Okay. All right. So little groundwork stuff to start with. This commission is an advisory board of the Natrona County Commissioners. Our decisions are subject to approval, conditional approval, denial, or modification by the Board of County Commissioners. For each application on the agenda, we will hold an official public hearing. The hearings are recorded, and there will be written minutes from this meeting. After the commission holds a public hearing, unless an application is tabled or withdrawn, the Board of County Commissioners will hold another public hearing for the application. Tonight, everyone will have the opportunity to address the commission. First, we're going to ask for those in favor of an application to come up to the podium and address the commissioners. Then, any opposed to the application may address the commissioners as well. And when the chair recognizes you, please come to the podium and clearly state your name and address before giving your comment. So, based on the large number of folks we have in the audience tonight, we're going to limit time for any one presentation to 3 minutes, please. 3 minutes. And then also would like to remind everyone that if at all possible, let's not reiterate what's already been voiced from the podium. You should also be aware that this is not a forum for public outcry or speaking from the audience. You must be recognized by the chair before addressing the commission. And if a person's conduct is out of order, the chair may give the person a warning. If the person continues the conduct, or if the conduct's extremely out of order, the person may be directed to leave immediately. We have 5 items on the agenda for this evening. Zone change 24-01, zone change 24-02, BC, I think it's a variance, I don't know what C is, BC 24-01 and variance 24-02, and in addition, text amendment 24-01. All right, next order of business is consideration of the minutes for the July 16th, 2024 meeting of the Board of County, or the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission. Chair would entertain a motion for consideration.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the July 16, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as prepared for the July 16th, 2024 meeting of the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we have a unanimous approval. Okay, on to the next part of the agenda, public hearings. First is consideration of ZC 24-01, and that's a request by Patrick Klein for a zone change from the light industrial zoning district to the urban mixed residential, UMR zoning district. The property is located at 3335 Plateau Street in the North Ridge subdivision, lots 33 and 35. Sean, may we have a staff report, please?
Oh, there we go. Anyway, good evening. Sean Gustafson for the ECS Engineers as the interim planner. Legal, as you mentioned, how the legal description is lots 33 and 35 of the North Ridge Addition, Shawna County. The property is located on the easterly side of Salt Creek Highway and north of Scenic Street. The zoning currently is light industrial. Minimum lot size in light industrial is 2 acres. The existing land use is the Vision Beyond Borders facility. That's classified as an institutional, civic, or public use and religious land use. Adjacent land use in the area, to the north and south are both UMR or urban mixed residential. East is light industrial, and the west is also UMR, urban mixed residential. Water and wastewater are both supplied by Wardwell, and which is a public district. The applicant came and discussed with staff the application for a zone change. The current 2022 zoning resolution does not support residential uses in the light industrial zoning districts. The applicant would like to change the zoning designation from LI to UMR, or from light industrial to urban mixed residential, to support the sale of the property as residential use as Vision Beyond Borders moves their location. Planning considerations. Pursuant to WS 18-5-202B, the Planning and Zoning Commission may certify an amendment to a zoning district designation to the Board of County Commissioners. Approval criteria. Is it consistent with the purpose and organization of the zoning resolution? Is it consistent with the Natrona County Development Plan? Is it necessary to address the changing area and conditions or a public necessity? And is consistent with other adopted county resolutions? Staff findings. Subject to the subject parcel is approximately 16,100 square feet. Each lot is 8,050 square feet. The minimum area for urban mixed residential is 9,000 square feet, according to the zoning resolution. The subject area encompasses 2 lots that we're talking about today. We're looking at it treated as one, since the structure does span across the lot line of both lots. Essentially tying them together. That then meets the 2022 zoning resolution requirement for minimum lot size of UMR. The property is located inside the growth management areas defined in Chapter 6 of the 2016 Development Plan and falls within neighborhood number 8. The development plan recommends infill of commercial, industrial, and no new residential. It appears a large portion of the current UMR zoned areas are adjacent to the subject property. And within the Northridge addition, the subject property is the only L1 zoning currently. So in other words, those two properties are the only in that subdivision that are L1 zoning, or LI zoning, sorry. The area defined by the Northridge addition plat has been traditionally residential since first platted in 1960. The parcel is currently being used as religious use with an office and warehousing type facilities on the property. The surrounding area to the north and south and west are all zoned urban mixed residential. The areas to the east are light industrial. The request to change to UMR for the purpose of supporting residential use is supported by staff since it's consistent with bordering properties. Public comment. As of the writing of this, there were no public comments received. Staff had sent notices to the statutory surrounding neighbors. Recommendations. Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the requested zone change after consideration of public testimony and the facts of the case as presented during the public hearing. Staff proposed that the Planning and Zoning Commission enter a motion vote to recommend for approval or denial of the requested zone change from light industrial to urban mixed residential. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the requested zone change, staff has no additional conditions for this project. And the staff also recommends that the motion incorporate by reference all findings of fact set forth. Here's Exhibit 1. There's a few exhibits here. Exhibit 1 is kind of a zoom in there of the area. The area in yellow is a lot of the subdivided area. The gray, of course, is the 2 lots that are requested to be rezoned. This is zoomed out so you can see the whole Northridge subdivision on that. This a picture of the current use, the Visions Beyond Borders. Let me see here. Let's see that. The lot line runs very close to where the vehicle is parked right there, so it does run right through the structure, effectively tying the 2 lots together. So with that, I'd love to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions for staff on the report? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Sabrina, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't find anything in our regulations. Just curious about the 2 lots. And looking at the map, it looks like the building goes over the lot lines, and I assume there's no requirement to replat the lot into 1 lot since it's kind of not really able to be 2 lots any longer. Probably hasn't been for a long time. It might be a legal question, but I just kind of wanted to ask that question. And then it would be completely in compliance instead of securing the 2 lots, considering the 2 lots as over the required minimum of the 9,000.
Sean or Jared, you guys have any reply to that?
Yeah, no, there is no requirement that the lots be replatted to contain that. How it's been handled in Natrona County previously is the fact that the structure is across it, it effectively ties the 2 lots together. So.
Did you hear that, Sabrina?
Yes, thank you.
At this time, typically we would have the applicant come forward and fill us in on any details that may be lacking or something you want to reinforce. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The way the current zoning is causes someone who's trying to get financing to
Excuse
purchase.
me, could you start with your name and address?
Oh,
please?
sorry. Patrick Klein, 3335 Plateau Street. Okay.
Thank you.
The way the current zoning is causes someone who's trying to get financing to purchase the property Properties that have to get a commercial loan on 3335 Plateau Street versus a standard loan on 3355 Plateau Street. Commercial loans require a considerable amount down and a different interest rate. So we're requesting if we could change it to urban residential, mixed residential.
Questions for Mr. Klein?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Sabrina?
thanks for clarifying that. That was actually going to be my next question. I wondered about the interest rates and the property being one or the other.
So do you have the information you need, or are you asking a question?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Klein, I guess could we pull up that picture? So the idea is to make that residential, is that what I'm
Yeah,
understanding?
yes. So the tan colored part of it is where an apartment where I live currently. And the rest of it is like a shop area with some offices toward the front, but it's storage. I'm using it as storage.
Okay, so in effect, it's currently being used as residential.
Right.
Okay. That's all you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Klein? No. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move into the public hearing. I now declare the public hearing open for consideration of case ZC 24-01. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Mr. Klein, this is typically where you'd come up and be on the record to say you're all in favor of your application. Yeah.
Patrick Klein, 3335 Plateau Street. I'm in favor of the application.
And thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Last chance. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, I'll declare closure of the public hearing for case ZC 24-01. Commissioners, any discussion? And the chair would entertain a motion for consideration if that's in the cards.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve application ZCS 24-01 and incorporate by reference all findings of fact set forth.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I don't see the issue. I don't see the issue.
I agree. I see no problem with that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, we're going to move to the question. All those in favor of approving application or case number ZC 24-01, and that's the request by Patrick Klein for approval of zoning of lots 33 and 35 North Ridge Addition, 3335 Plateau Street, from light industrial to urban mixed residential zoning. Sabrina, are you following okay?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second, ready to call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We have a unanimous recommendation to forward a do pass recommendation to the county commissioners. Next on the agenda for this evening is consideration of another zoning change application, and that is a request by Eric and Jessica Hyde for a zone change from the Urban Ag UA zoning district to Suburban Residential 1, that's SR1 zoning district. The property is located at 1390 Bryan Stock Trail, and it's in the Durnell Family Exemption Subdivision, Lot 2. Sean, may we have a staff report, please?
Yes, good evening again. Similar case, lots 2 of the Durnell Family Exemption, Natrona County, Wyoming. This property is physically located in adjacent to and north of the North Platte River and east of Bryan Stock Trail. The current zoning is urban agricultural. The current minimum is 10 acres. Existing land use of this parcel is residential. The adjacent land use to the north, this is a little bit convoluted. There's quite a few. Let me get to the, sorry. To the north, it is commercial, county commercial, Natrona County commercial, urban, agricultural, and heavy industrial. To the south, we have Park Historic. That's a City of Casper designation, as City of Casper has stuff on the other side of the river. East is urban agricultural, commercial in the City of Casper. And west is Park Historic in the City of Casper again. Water source currently is well, and wastewater is a private septic system. The applicant statement. The applicant discussed with staff the application for zone change. The current 2022 zone resolution parcels in a UA zoning less than 10 acres are, excuse me, let me try that again. Resolution parcels in a UA zoning acres less than 10 acres, and they are desirous to subdivide and provide the parcels for their children and donate a piece of the City of Casper for a boat ramp on that side of the river. The applicant would like to change the zoning designation from UA to SR1, which allows a minimum of 2-acre parcels. Planning considerations pursuant to WS 18-5-202B, the Planning and Zoning Commission may certify an amendment to a zoning district designation to the Board of County Commissioners. Approval criteria. In deciding to adopt or deny a proposed zoning resolution text or the zone map, the amendment and the BOCC may consider. One, is it consistent with the purpose and organization of this resolution? 2, is it consistent with the Natrona County Development Plan? 3, is it necessary to address changing area, change conditions, or public necessity? And 4, is it consistent with other adopted county resolutions? Staff findings. The subject parcel is 11.3 acres. A stray square foot in there, apologize for that. The proposed sketch of the future subdivision shows intentions at 2 acres or larger for each parcel. The minimum area for the suburban residential SR1 is 2 acres. It is worthy to note that the public water and sanitary sewer is located in Bryan Stock Trail through the City of Casper. It would need to be an outside city agreement, but it is located there. The property is located outside the growth management areas defined in Chapter 6 of the 2016 Development Plan and falls within Neighborhood 35. The development plan recommends new commercial and industrial to the south and residential to the north of Sunlight Drive. Just to bring that up, here's the Sunlight Drive is the, I wish I could point with this, but it kind of goes into the Sunlight Drive is this road. Yes, it's got a nice laser pointer, but it goes away when you hit the screen. So, it appears a large portion of the current SR1 zoned areas are north of the subject property, but are south of Sunlight Drive, which you can see as that is there. The zoning is varied in the area, including the zoning is varied in the area, including commercial, park historical, urban agricultural, heavy industrial, and SR1. SR1 is the predominant zoning and actually the predominant zoning in the area. The parcel is currently being used as residential, and the future use is desired to be residential with a small amount of public access. SR1 appears to be the predominant zoning west of Bryan Stock Trail. Staff is supportive of this change in zoning. Public comment. We've had, as of the writing of this, there weren't any, but now we've had 2 phone-ins in favor and 1 written in favor. Staff did send notices to the surrounding statutory area surrounding neighbors. Recommendations: Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the requested zone change after consideration of public testimony and the facts of the case as presented during the public hearing. Staff proposes that the Planning and Zoning Commission enter a motion to vote to recommend approval or denial of the requested zone change from urban agricultural to suburban residential. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the requested zone change, staff has no additional conditions for this project. Staff also recommends that the motion incorporate by reference all findings of PAC set forth. The county health did have one recommendation on this. The northernmost parcel in the sketch, which I don't think we have a picture of. That we do. The northernmost parcel in the sketch here, that this is the proposed potential use, is a 2-acre lot, which given the topography will be a little bit difficult to locate a septic system on. Most likely possible, but a little difficult. This is also a good one to use, that the Bryan Stock Trail has both water and sewer within that to the city of Casper on an outside agreement. So just a picture of the property where the boat ramp would be approximately. And I guess with that, I'd like to answer any questions.
Questions for staff on the report?
Yeah, Sean, just a quick question. On the, in the application, it talked about donating a portion, 9/10 of an acre for a boat. Is that formalized, or how does that work? Is that just a handshake deal?
No, that would be formalized. That would be either in the, it could be done either as a breakout, a surveyed breakout of that piece of property that would encompass that, or an easement that's dedicated to the public and in charge of the city of Casper.
So if this application were approved as presented, the city and the owner will deal with that?
Yes.
And that's,
Yes.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a boat ramp directly across the river. I wonder why they would want one on both sides of the river.
Yeah, not quite in that picture, but there is a boat ramp just across there. Yes.
So do we have anything in writing from the city saying that's a good idea?
No. That's a
Alright.
desire at this point, if you will.
So is the city even aware that they might be gifted some property for boat ramp or whatever?
Mr. Chair, I did have a discussion with Bill Faringer with CEPI prior to this application coming in, and that conversation with the city is actually what sparked the request for this. Part of the request for this zone change is they were looking into that donation plus the other things that Mr. Gustafson has stated.
Okay, thank you. Related question, if we could go back to the, that one will work.
Mhm.
Quite a bit of industrial, stuff there. Is there what's consideration of staff given to preempting industrial along Bryan Stock Trail, right adjacent to an industrial area, and across the way, they've got a, you know, an industrial shop. Any concerns with changing industrial or residential in that setting?
No, because currently it is being used as residential, and it has historically been used as residential. So as far as, it's not really a change in use, but a change in zoning to match the use.
And if I understand right, the reason for this is because of discussions with the city. Is that kind of what forced, if it's been being used as a residential? Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
That was one of the considerations, was discussion with the city, but then the discussion of splitting off for family members to create some smaller lots. Currently, it's urban agricultural use and residential use on the property.
And a 10-acre minimum with the urban agricultural use for lot size. So,
In that discussion with the city, do they show any interest in annexing the area?
I don't have any further details on what the discussion actually, what discussion took place.
And I do believe on that deal with the health department, if you're within 300 feet, I believe, of a sewer line, you're obligated to tie in. Is that correct?
my understanding of the 201 agreement here is if you're under 200 feet, the city can request that you tie in. You're not required to, but they can request that you do.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd ask the applicant if they are available to come forward and fill us in on details that we may need to know. Good evening.
Hi there, I'm Eric Hyde. I live at 1390 Bryan Stock Trail, the one that input the application there. Okay, do you mind if I just go over to this map? I'm a little shorter, so this one will be a little easier for me.
And sir, you can actually take that mic with you, so you can talk into it so our other commissioner can hear.
So, out of here, the whole thing, okay, all right. Okay, so this is the property in question. I'll try to answer a few questions here as we go along. This is currently and has been, this actually whole area since 1955. It's urban ag, but it's been residential. So just don't confuse that with industrial. This back here is also residential, urban ag. The main reason we wanted to do this was to split this to give my son and his wife and grandkids part of the property so they can live out there as well. And to address the city portion of it. It's hard to see on this map. If this whole thing was like a Google Earth map, see how the river kind of runs through there? So that the boat ramp itself will be on this side where it currently is. There's not one on this side, and there is no proposal for that. It just turns out that upon inspection, the Platte River Revival found that we own part of the property over here that's been used as city property. It never bothered us, so big deal. However, they want to redo the boat ramp, and they're like, well, shoot, you own part of this. We need to get with you and see if you could lease it. We can lease it from you or whatever. And we just said, we don't have plans for anything over here. We will donate the section of the river here, halfway through the river and that bank, to the city. Then they can have that to do with what they want. The whole reason for changing the zoning is we don't have enough acreage to split to give to our kids, being urban ag, because the rule is nothing less than 10. So that's why we wanted to go to SR1. Now, if we could just keep it urban ag and split it, we'd be fine. Anyway. That's about all I got. Any other questions?
Questions for Mr. Hyde? Thank you for the explanation. That helped out
Yeah,
a
no
lot.
problem.
I didn't realize that your property went all the way across the river.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, ready to move into the public hearing for the application? Now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of case number ZC 24-02, I believe. It's a typo on the written part. Any in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the zone change application, would you please come forward? Good evening.
Good evening. This is Dylan Hyde, and I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Eric Hyde, 1390 Bryan Stock Trail, and I approve. Well, you guys approve. I am in favor of this. Sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward?
Jessica Hyde, 1390 Bryan Stock Trail, and I am in favor also.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, declare closure of the public hearing for the application. Chair would entertain a motion for consideration and any further discussion.
No questions.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, and I don't see an issue with this request for zoning to move forward. I move that we approve the request for zone change, incorporating all the findings of fact for CZS 24-02.
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll move to the question. All those in favor of zone change 24-02, and that is for the Hyde rezoning Lot 2 of the Durnell Family Exemption 1390 Bryan Stock Trail from urban agriculture to suburban residential 1. All those in favor of the application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a unanimous do-pass recommendation to go to the county commissioners. Next on the agenda for this evening is consideration of BC 24-01 Smoky Gap, and that's a request by Harmony Towers for setback requirements on a cell tower, which is at a 2-to-1 height ratio. The tower will be located on the west side of US Highway I-25, north at the north intersection with Wyoming State Highway 387. That would be directly west of Midwest, down Midwest. So may we have a staff report, please, Sean?
Good evening again. I'm going to slip forward real quick to before I start this, just a map of the area to see that little yellow X there just above Smoky Gap Road at the interstate is the location of the tower. And as Mr. Hutchinson said, it's just about directly to the west of the town of Midwest. So. Okay, this is a request for variance from the zoning regulation. What the tower, as Mr. Hutchinson stated, what the tower violates, I guess, or I wouldn't really call it a violation, but what it doesn't meet in zoning regulation is the 2 times the height of the tower. This particular tower is a 255-foot tower to begin with. So the current zoning in the area is ranching, agricultural, mining, or RAM. This use of a cell tower is allowed by right, if you will, in the zoning regulation, or it is permitted in the zoning regulation. And again, the reason we're here is the setback requirement. The adjacent land use to the north, south, east, and west is all rural, agricultural, and mining. This particular site will be dry, but the well and septic system, if there were to need a well and septic, that's what would be used in this area. There is no public water. Summary: the applicant, Harmonic Towers, through its agent Darrell L. Smith of Coal Creek Consulting, requests approval of a 255-foot wireless communication facility. And we've talked about the location of that already. The materials that have been submitted to staff have been the variance application, project narrative, plan sheets, which include a map and general information of the area, overall survey map of the tower location, survey detail map and notes, overall site plan of the area, and a zoomed in site plan. I should also mention that's a separate sheet. Enlarged site plan, equipment and antenna plans, tower elevations, the equipment specification, the coverage maps, photo simulation study, and ground lease agreement. Planning considerations for the variance. The purpose of a variance is to allow a specific deviation from these regulations that is not contrary to the desired future character of the site when due special circumstances of the land. The strict application of these regulations would result in undue and unique hardship. In the case of the Smoky Gap Wireless Communications Facility, WCF, we'll call that later just to be a little shorter, in a RAM district is permitted by right in table 4.02 of the 2022 zoning resolution. Section 4.1.2 F5A requires a setback of the tower plus 100% of the height from abutting parcels. Recorded rights of way and road and street lines. Section 4.10.20 F5C states, and I'll quote this, the BOCC may grant a variance from this setback requirement if the applicant can provide structural drawings, plans signed by a licensed engineer in the state of Wyoming that certifies the use of breakpoint technology, and or if the tower collapses, relief from standard setback requirements would not pose a threat to health and safety of adjacent property. Approval criteria: in granting any variance, the board may attach such reasonable considerations as safeguards as it may deem necessary to implement to the purposes of this act and the zoning ordinance. The applicant shall have the burden of demonstrating that the proposal satisfies the applicable review criteria. Variances shall be approved upon finding. Number one, there are exceptional or unique circumstances and conditions applicable to the property involved, and literal application of this resolution to the applicant's property will result in hardship that is greater than the protection offered to the community. The special circumstances and conditions have not resulted from any willful modification of the land or building. 3, the variance sought is the minimum variance necessary to provide balance between the purpose of the regulation sought to be varied and its impact on the applicant. 4, the variance will not result in a gain in use, service, or income for the applicant to a greater extent than available to other landowners in the vicinity. 5, granting the variance will not impair the use of adjacent property or alter the character of the neighborhood. 6, granting the variance is consistent with the general intent and purpose of the county development plan and this resolution, and the site is not subject to a series of variances that circumvent the purpose of this section. Staff findings. I guess I should catch up here. Oops. Here we go. In the case of CUP, whoops, another typo there. Case of BC 24-01, a wireless communication facility is permitted use in RAM zoning. The variance is only required due to the lack of tower from the property line to the east on the leased ground not being twice the height of the 255-foot communication tower. Area topography and area chosen are provide the needed cell signal to coverage for the area for both emergency services and convenience for customer service needs. And it does not allow the full double height setback to be met. The zoning ordinance section 4.10.20 F5C provides relief of the 200% height setback requirement if a Wyoming resident licensed engineer has designed the tower with breakpoint technology, which is covered in the ANSI /TIA 222-8 standard. The designs submitted are to this standard and accomplished by a Wyoming registered professional engineer. In the case of tower failure, the radius of 200 foot of the tower height, which would be 510 feet, is open prairie, and therefore there is no discernible risk to health or safety or adjacent landowners, with the exception of the east setback that is required violates this proximity with the YDOT right-of-way. The YDOT right-of-way is 343.4 feet away. I did have a conversation with the YDOT District 2 traffic engineer, Brooke Allen, and confirmed that YDOT generally only works with a 100% of the height setback from their roadways is what they're concerned about. So in other words, as long as we're over 255 feet in this case, YDOT is fine. Staff is supportive to granting the variance as submitted for the setback requirements. Public comment. As of the date of the staff report, on this particular one, there have been no written comments received, and notices were submitted to the surrounding neighbors. So, recommendation: Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the requested zone change after consideration of testimony and the facts in this case as presented during the public hearing. Staff proposes behind. Oops. Staff proposes that the Planning and Zoning Commission enter a motion and a vote to recommend approval or denial of the requested variance for height setback to send off to the county commissioners. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the requested zone change, staff has no additional considerations for this project. And we also recommend that the motion incorporate by reference and findings of fact set forth. With that, I'd answer any question and will mention, I understand somebody from the applicant is here tonight, so.
Questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman?
Sabrina, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the zoning ordinance requirements for the relief of the 200% height setback is for a Wyoming licensed engineer to design the tower. How do we know if this has happened? If it hasn't happened already, is that during the permit process when they get the permit that will be required? I just want to make sure if we're approving this that the requirements we know that they're being upheld.
That's a good question. Yes, I have reviewed all the plans that I mentioned in the report there. They are stamped by a Wyoming resident engineer, and it does go very deeply into ANSI at TIA 222. Those plans will also be submitted for the building permit, and we'll have another opportunity of review at that time.
Thank you.
Sean had a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
The staff report says a conversation with YDOT traffic engineer confirmed that YDOT asked for 100% of the height setback, generally for roadways. Just a little background here on applications. I've been sitting up here for 12 years doing these things, and in the past, this has gotten to be a contentious deal. before 2022, when we had the new zoning rewrite, it was 110%. Now it's 200%. I don't know why they changed it. Had to do it again. I probably need to look into the details more. I guess my point is, the YDOT says it's okay. I think we need something in writing before we send that off to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay.
I did see where there was an access permit that they'd signed off on,
Yes.
but I didn't see anything in that permit that addressed their approval of this difference in the county zoning requirement.
I can ask Brooke to provide that, so.
Okay. And could you please explain to us in practice what this special break-off tower, how does that work?
Well, first of all, I will mention that the verbiage used, the breakpoint technology is something that you can search all day for and you'll never find. I don't know what that is exactly. When I look at the design of the tower, what I see is a tower that is built in sections where the bolts will shear and break apart as a tower comes down and not come down all in one big piece. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So I understand the applicant's in the audience. Would you like to come forward and fill us in on other details? Good evening.
Good evening. Steve Ciolek, Coal Creek Consulting, 8283 North Hayden Road in Scottsdale. Tonight we are representing Harmony Towers in partnership with Verizon Wireless. Verizon is trying to address a gap in coverage along the highway and would like to place a tower at this height near the highway so it could expand the most majority of the highway that it can to fulfill that gap. Along with the latest technology, there will also be E911 service available to help first responders to help identify and locate customers in need. Working with staff, yes, we provided plans and applications with the tower, with the setbacks. Due to its irregular shape, nowhere along that property would suffice the 2-to-1 setbacks. I believe, if not already, we could provide another email from YDOT stating that it is a 1-to-1 requirement per the regulations. We also agree with the stipulations that we need a variance, a permit, which was obtained July 24th of this year, as well as any other stipulations for these approval. If there are any questions that I may have missed, I can address that at this time.
I didn't catch your last name.
Ciolek, Ciolek.
Questions for Mr. Selleck? Selleck? Did it right?
Close enough.
Just one quick question. So you're putting it in this location because presumably this is an optimal area, given the topography, but also in the, whatever goals you have for putting that tower in?
Correct. It's to expand the gap in service that's along the highway. Closer to the highway, you could expand further north and south. If we push it further on a different parcel, yes, it won't only cover certain portions of the highway and not totally fulfill the gap as proposed.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, all right. Any other questions for Mr.? I did have one more question.
Yes, sir.
So if the tower should break and fall to the east, you got YDOT to worry about. Does YDOT completely, do they own everything 500?
No, the adjacent parcel to the west is owned by the same landlord. It'll just fall on a different parcel owned by the current landlord.
In the same realm as we talked about having YDOT provide written knowledge, I guess, that we're granting this variance, we should have any other property owner that would be potentially affected by that 2-to-1 ratio also submit something in writing to say that they're okay
Yes, sir.
with that plan. Okay.
We could do that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
This time we're going to call the public hearing for consideration of the variance application. So variance application 24-01, Smoky Gap, Harmony Towers, setback for the cell tower, 2-to-1 height variance. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward and give us your name and address and express your being in favor of the application? Mr. Selleck, this is when you might want to come up for the record.
Steve Siolik, 8283 North Scottsdale, in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Selleck. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we call a closure to the public hearing for VC-24-01, and that's the cell tower setback issue for Smoky Gap Road. Chair would entertain a motion for consideration, and is there any further discussion? One moment, please.
Interrupt.
Sean?
1 second. May I suggest that the motion carry a requirement to have the YDOT? And and I think it can with the adjacent landowner too. However, he's the one that is granting the land use. So, but if you wanted to have them both in there, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. Mr. Schulte, I think you were
So,
about to say something.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve application VCS 24-01, Smoky Gap, Harmony Tower setback, cell tower setback, located at US Highway I-25 north of the intersection Wyoming State Highway 387. Incorporate by reference all finding of facts set forth, including, I might have Jared help, including what from the landowners?
I would recommend just some sort of written authorization from the landowner himself and from YDOT that they are approving of this setback, or of the setback variance, and their approval of 1-to-1 ratio.
So my motion would be contingent upon approval from adjacent landowners in acceptance of the variance.
Thank you. Have a second?
A second.
Sabrina, second. All right, any further discussion? Seeing nobody jump up, we'll move on to the question. All those in favor of variance 24-01, and that's the Smoky Gap Road, Harmony Towers setback for the cell tower height? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. We have unanimous recommendation forward to the BOCC for approval of VC 24-01. Moving on. similar to the last one, BC 24-02. And this is a same type situation, Harmony Towers out in the Bessemer Bend area, just beyond the Narrows, heading southwest. And it's request for a setback requirement variance for a cell tower, which is more than the 2-to-1 height ratio. Tower will be located south and east of Highway 220 in the Bessemer Bend area. Sean, may we have your report, please?
Good evening again. Yes, very, very similar application. In this case, the tower is 199 feet tall instead of 220. I'm going to jump forward here again to give a, here again, the yellow X there up on the ridge in I guess you'd say the center of that pie-shaped property. Or at least the center of the easterly leg of that. The zoning, current zoning in this, for this adjacent land use is north, south, east, and west, rural, agricultural, mining, RAM zoning. Again, water source, wastewater source would be well and septic if necessary. The Harmony Towers, through its agent Daryl Smith of Coal Creek Consulting, requests the approval of a 199-foot wireless communication facility. Materials that were submitted, much the same as last time. The variance application, which that is in the packet, the project narrative, plan sheets including the map and overall general information, overall survey map, survey detail map, overall site plan, a site plan, and an enlarged site plan, equipment and antenna plans, tower elevations, equipment specifications, coverage maps, photo simulation study, and ground lease agreement from the landowner. All of those have been gone through over the past months and are in order. Planning considerations, again, on the variance. The purpose of the variance is to allow a specific deviation from these regulations that don't comply to the desired future character of the site when due to special circumstances of the land. Strict application of these regulations would result in undue and unique hardship. In the case of the, that's not a misspelling, Bessemer Bend Wireless. That's been in the application from the beginning, so it's Bessemer Bend instead of Bessemer. The communication, you may find that I've misspelled it as I go through here in place. The communications facility, WCF, is in a RAM district, which is permitted by right, table 4.02 of the 2022 zoning regulation. Section 4.10.20 F5A requires a setback of the tower plus 100%. Height from the abutting parcels, recorded rights of way and roads and street lines. Section 410.20 F5C states that the BOCC may grant a variance from the setback requirement if the applicant provides structural drawings and plans signed by a licensed engineer in the state of Wyoming that certifies the use of breakpoint technology, and or if the tower collapses, relief from standard setback requirements would not pose a threat to health and safety of the adjacent property owners. Approval criteria: in granting any variance, the board may attach such reasonable conditions as safeguards as it may deem necessary to implement the purpose of this act and the zoning ordinance. The applicant shall have the burden of demonstrating that the proposal satisfies the applicable review criteria. Variances shall be approved upon finding: number one, there are exceptional or unique circumstances and conditions applicable to the property involved, and literal application of this resolution to the applicant's property will result in hardship that is greater than the protection offered to the community. The special circumstances conditions do not result from any willful modification of the land or building. 3, the variance sought is minimum variance necessary to provide balance between the purpose of the regulation sought to be varied and its impact on the applicant. 4, the variance will not result in a gain in use, service, or income for the applicant to a greater extent than available to other landowners in the vicinity. 5, granting the variance will not impar the use of the adjacent property or alter the character of the neighborhood. 6, granting the variance is consistent with the general intent and purpose of the county development plan and its resolution, and the site is not subject to a series of variances that circumvent the purpose of this section. Staff findings. And there we go with the CUP again, sorry. In the case of VP 24-02, the wireless communications facility is permitted using RAM zoning. The variance is only required due to the setback of the tower from the property line to the east on the leased ground, not being twice the height of the 199-foot communication tower. Aerial topography and area chosen to provide the needed cell signal coverage for the area and for both emergency services and convenience. Customer service needs do not allow the full double height setback to be met. Just to clarify that a little bit, that tower is on a ridge. Moving it either direction takes it off of the ridge, puts it closer to the home that's down there, or puts it out of the way of good cell reception. The zoning ordinance section 410.20 F5C provides relief for the 200% height setback requirement if a Wyoming licensed engineer has designed the tower with breakpoint technology, which is covered in the ANSI TIA 222H standard. The designs submitted are to this standard and accomplished by a Wyoming resident professional engineer, registered professional engineer. In the case of the failure of the radius of 200 feet of the tower height, or 398 feet, is open prairie, and the violation on this is directly to the east. It's not quite the 398 feet, it's pretty close. Is open prairie, and therefore no discernible risk to health or safety of adjacent landowner. Staff is supportive to the granting the variance as submitted for the setback requirements. As we wrote this, there were no written comments received. However, we've received now today a text message from the Bates Creek Cattle Company, which I believe was distributed, that said they have no issue with this variance. Which was that's kind of unique, but I guess it works. Staff sent notices to the surrounding neighbors. Recommendations: Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the requested zone change after consideration of the public testimony and the facts in the case as presented during the public hearing. Staff proposes that the Zoning Commission enter a motion and a vote to recommend for approval or denial of the requested variance for height and setback. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the requested zone change, staff has no additional comments for this project. Staff also recommends that the motion incorporate by reference all findings and facts set forth. There's a picture of the ridge that the tower will sit up on. I guess from there, any questions?
Questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Sabrina, go ahead.
I see, I don't know if I'm missing it, but I see the height of a communication tower is 199 feet, and that obviously the variance is because the setback is not twice that height of the 398, but I don't see where the setback is.
It's on Exhibit C of the application that's within the packages. There's it's pulled up by two different ways. There's a distance from the site to the eastern property line there, which honestly I can't read right at this time. And then you would have half the distance of the square that's in there. Perhaps the applicant can give me a little better read on that right now, but it is slightly shorter than the 200% of the tower height. So.
And that would be to the east.
To the east.
Okay.
All setbacks in the other directions are provided, so.
Thank you.
Question on that same drawing, Exhibit C. So there's two property owners involved. One is where the tower is actually located, and one is just shy of the 200-foot or the 398-foot distance, correct?
Correct. Yep. And that's the one owned by Bates Creek Cattle Company.
Okay. Chad, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the structure, I guess to the west of the tower, and I'm guessing that's the landowner. Sorry for the feedback.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, okay. And obviously they're not going to have an issue with it going in, but it sure looks pretty close. But
Looks very close from here, but there's well over the 200% provided on that
okay.
side.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Sean. Mr. Ciolic? Welcome again.
Good evening, Steve Siolik, 8283 North Hayden Road, Scottsdale. Again, we are working with Harmony Towers for coverage for Verizon Wireless to address a gap in service along this highway. Along with the newest technology, it'll be an E911 facility that will help first responders locate customers in need. Due to the, I guess, topography, that is our hardship, which is why we were requesting this variance. To answer your questions that were brought up by your conversations with staff, it is 1-to-1 to the east for 199 feet distance in between the property line. To the south, it would be 649 feet to that property line. The house, yes, is well over 2-to-1 setback. The hardship is the ridge. We could either locate it lower on the ridge, but be twice the height and still not meet the required setbacks, or keep it on the ridge, have the height of the RF engineers for that coverage, and request this variance to the east. As staff said, it is open prairie. There's no detrimental concern if it happens to fall over, which it should not.
Anything from Mr. Cielic?
Thank you. And then I also am in support of this variance.
Great. So in the same vein as we had the issue of the adjacent property owner acknowledging that they're in the fall zone and it's less than the required. I do have the note here from Bates Creek Cattle Company. No objection to the tower going up, but could we get them to also state they're acknowledging the variance?
Will do.
Great.
Provide that. Yes, sir.
All right.
Any other questions?
If you want to just stay there. This time we're going to call a public hearing for consideration of variance request BC 24-02, and that's in the area of, Sean, I didn't catch that, Bossamer or whatever. Bossamer Bend. Okay, that's a new one for me. So this is Harmony Towers, and we're talking about the issue of the setback requirement for a cell tower, which is less than the 2-to-1 height ratio. So, all those in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Mr. Cielic, good to see you, thank you.
Steve Siolik, 8283 North Hayden, and I am in support of this variance request.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, call a close to consideration of variance request 24-02, and that's Bessemer Bend and cell tower. Ladies and gentlemen, any discussion? Or the chair would entertain a motion for consideration.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the request for variance in BCS 24-02. Well, as considering all findings of fact, And also the letters from the landowners noting that they're in agreement with the variance.
Outstanding.
A second?
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Move on to the question. All those in favor of the application for the variance 24-VCS 24-02, that's Bessemer Bend, Harmony Towers, and the issue of the setback requirements for the cell tower being less than the 2-to-1 height ratio. All those in favor of the application signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We have a unanimous recommendation to send a do-pass recommendation to the Natrona County Board of County Commissioners. Okay. Everybody good? All right, we're going to move on to what appears to be the big event tonight. Or a bigger event, depends on who you're. And that is TA-24-01. That is a request by Greg Werger to amend the text of the 2022 Natrona County Zoning Resolution 4622. The amendment would remove the C from MR1 column and extractive industries line from the table of allowable uses, that's table 4.02-2 on page 63 of the 2022 Natrona County zoning resolution. Removing the C from the cross-section of the table would remove the ability to apply for or obtain a conditional use permit for extractive industries in the Mountain Residential 1 zoning districts. Mr. Gustafson, may we have a staff report, please?
Good evening again. Yes, the text amendment essentially does remove the C from, would remove the C from the 4.02 zoning resolution. That's mountain residential zoning. Mountain residential zoning is a 10-acre minimum. And, currently allows extractive industry use through a conditional use permit, which actually in the zoning regulation, extractive industries are only permitted by conditional use permit. The other two zonings are RAM, rural agricultural mining, or ranching agricultural mining, and industrial, heavy industrial. So again, all by conditional use permit. The zoning resolution or text amendment, the purpose of the zoning resolution text amendment proposes to a public review a revision to this. The zoning resolution in response to changing circumstances to reflect changes in public policy and to advocate the general health, safety, and welfare of the county. Applicability amendments to the text of the zoning resolution may be initiated by an applicant, the applicable director, and the Planning and Zoning Commission or the BOCC. Procedure: the following application steps as outlined in section 5.03 of the general application procedures are: step 1 is a pre-application conference, which is had. 2, a neighborhood meeting, which has been had. 3, application submittal, which the application has been submitted. Step 4, application completeness review. That review has been accomplished and found complete. The section 5, the application review itself. Step 6, notice of public hearing. Step 7, public hearings, which this is one of them. Step 8, decisions and findings. The approval criteria, the BOCC may approve an application for the zoning resolution text amendment if 1 is consistent with the purposes and organization of the zoning resolution. 2, improves the consistency of the zoning resolution with other provisions of the zoning resolution. 3, provides flexibility for landowners within standards that clearly define desired character. 4, is necessary to address changing conditions, public necessity, and/or state or federal regulation, legislation, excuse me. 5, is consistent with the county development plan, and 6, is consistent with other adopted county resolutions. Planning considerations on this are allowed within the Natrona County and Natrona County zoning districts of extractive industries are allowed within Natrona County and within the Natrona County zoning districts of RAM, which is ranching, agriculture, and mining, urban agriculture, I neglected to mention that before, mountain residential, and heavy industrial, all by the use of a CUP permit or conditional use permit process. So extractive industries are not permitted by right in any zoning district within Natrona County. The CUP process allows a variety of beneficial factors to be assessed on a case-by-case basis while considering potential deterrents and negative consequences. Some of the rationale and benefits of this, one is allowing the use of a COP can promote economic growth.
Sean,
Yes.
excuse me for interrupting. Could
Oh,
get you to,
I'm sorry about
so
that.
the audience can see what's going on.
Where are we at here? Criteria, let's see here. Since the process resolution, we've been through that. This should note here, Exhibit A brings out the extractive industries. See, in this one here, there's a red line through the C in the MR1 zoning. This is just an example of the table. Same table. Well, Shelby, would you restart that, please? I don't know where I. Okay. Okay, that was the approval criteria there. Let's see here.
I guess it doesn't have the rationale.
I'm just going to stay there. The rationale's not in there. Economic growth, allowing a CUP can attract new businesses and services, fostering economic development. This can lead to job creation, increased tax revenue, and more vibrant economy. These are some of the benefits of not everything being either prohibited or allowed and considering through a CUP. The community needs, a CUP can enable the establishment of essential services and amenities that are currently lacking. This can improve quality of life for residents by providing convenient access to goods and services. Flexibility and applicability. Zoning regulations can sometimes be too rigid and accommodate unique or innovative to accommodate unique or innovative projects. And I should add in there, or new type projects. A CUP provides the flexibility needed to adapt to a changing community needs and market conditions without compromise to the overall existing zoning plan. Controlled development. A CUP allows for specific conditions and requirements to be imposed on the proposed use, ensuring that it aligns with the community's goals and standards. This controlled approach can mitigate potential negative impacts on the neighborhood. Some more benefits of the CUP process is addressing potential concerns. Traffic and congestion is a concern with many uses. Traffic studies can be conducted to assess and mitigate any potential increase in traffic. Conditions can be imposed to ensure adequate parking. Traffic management plans are in place. Noise and environmental impact, conditions related to noise levels, operating hours, environmental safeguards can be included in the CUP to minimize any adverse effects on the community. Community input. Public hearings and community meetings can be held to gather input and address concerns from residents. This assures transparency and community involvement in the decision-making process. Currently within the 2022 Natrona County Zoning Resolution number 46-22, Table 4.02, Extractive Industries, there we go, are only considered under the CUP process. The additional use is only considered in RAM, or this conditional use is only considered in RAM, UA, and MR1 zonings. I neglected to put heavy industrial, but it's also considered heavy industrial zonings. Zoning is mainly from the MR1 zoning is mainly the front of Casper Mountain. The terrain is generally steep and will not, and not all uses are feasible in this type of terrain. However, minerals are potentially abundant and perhaps some valuable minerals are available only in this type of geologic setting. That being said, not all of the areas in MR1, RAM, UA, or even H1 zone or HI zonings are appropriate for extraction. For these reasons and the processes, benefits, and potential concerns above to be addressed in each and every CUP process. The conditional use permit, and particularly the process that it is gone through, is a value and essential, particularly for the extractive industries. Public comment. We have 12 public comments now written. 11 are in favor of this text amendment to remove the C. And one is against that, wanting to keep it as is. That's a comment from the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. Neighborhood meeting has been held. Approximately 100 people attended. Staff recommendation. The recommendation by staff is a denial of the remove the C amendment as proposed. Staff proposes that the Planning and Zoning Commission enter a motion and vote to recommend approval or denial of the request of the text amendment and forward that recommendation onto the Natrona County Board of Commissioners. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the requested text amendment, staff has no additional conditions for this project. Staff also recommends that the motion incorporate by reference all the findings of fact set forth. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions.
A lot of information there. Board questions for staff?
Just a
Yeah.
quick question. To your knowledge, is this the first time we've had a request to change the resolution?
Mr. Commissioner,
Good
to the
question.
best of my knowledge, this is the first request that we've had to amend the 2022 zoning resolution, as this was passed less than 2 years ago. There hasn't been any amendments to it to this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I do have a question. What is the overall area of the MR1 zoning in the county? Do you know?
The MR1, as I said, generally is the face of Casper Mountain. From the foothills up the face and to the top of the mountain. From on the rest of Casper Mountain on the top and over is generally MR2 zoning. And there are various zonings farther north than the MR1 zone.
So you don't have, I have the zoning map and it would appear that there's like, I'm guessing those are sections of 30 square miles
Yes.
in the front of Casper Mountain where, and there may be some MR1 on the backside of the mountain or somewhere else, but just from,
Yeah, it's mainly the front.
yeah. So there's a lot of that land.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Sean?
Mr. Chairman?
Sabrina, go ahead.
Just curious, I couldn't find it in the zoning regulations. Who's authorized to submit a text amendment request?
That's another good question for legal there.
Ms. Kemper, either the BOCC, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Planning Department, or a general citizen can submit a request for a text amendment pursuant to the 2022 zoning resolution.
Thank you.
Which leads me to the question I had. When we have staff retire and ask for the applicant to come forward, do we have an applicant?
We do have an applicant here. Mr. Werger is present at this time.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Sean.
Okay, thank you.
So at this time, if we could get, is it Werger? Is that how it's pronounced? Hello.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Greg Werger, 7,000 Coates Road, Casper, Wyoming. I am the applicant. I've got some handouts for you. Because I think we're missing a few things. So I'm going to try to explain those few things. And so it's clear on what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
I think it's kind of clouding to this point. So in 2004, we zoned Casper Mountain in the face. And at that time, we called it MR1 zoning, which is mountain residential. It's not RAM, it's not mining, it's mountain residential. And in fact, Mr. Chairman, it is about 2 miles wide by about 15 miles long, making it 30 square miles. So in 2004, we did that. And in 2022, we did your resolution. Mysteriously, that C was put in that table. Up to that point, it wasn't there. So 18 years we went through with nobody wanting to mine that mountain because it was prohibited. And then that C was put in there, allowing it if you completed a CUP. And I don't know if you're familiar with the requirements of CUP, but they're almost impossible to meet with extractive mining. And it was made that way when the original zoning came out. That was on purpose. So we put the C in there in 2022, in December of that year. So less than 21 months ago, that C was put in there. Mysteriously, then right after that, the state lands, that there's approximately 3,400 acres on the west side, it was applied for to lease the gravel in those state lands at 60 cents a ton. Retail value of extracted gravel is $18 a ton. By Prism's own admission, and explained to me, it takes them about $8 to $10 a ton to extract the gravel and get it ready for retail at 18. The state gets 60 cents. Oh, the city gets 0 and the county gets 0. But the state gets their 60 cents a ton. And then I think we ought to take that C back out and make it the way it was for 18 years and the way it was originally planned. Mountain Residential 1 is just as it says, and it's the face of the mountain. In that packet, you'll see a 1938 news report, and it suggests that the city and the state buy up as much of that land as they can on the face, even suggesting that it become a national park like Yellowstone or the Grand Tetons. of which we wouldn't allow extractive mining in those national parks. But that 1938 article, so our predecessors intended for the mountain and the face to be our crown jewel. In fact, if you look at the Visit Casper brochure, right where this mine, or right where this MR1 zoning is, there's pictures of it from the top of the mountain from Lookout Point down onto that land. Can you imagine us having a Butte, Montana on the side of this mountain? I can't. So it's my recommendation we take the C out of there and continue back the way we were, revert back, prohibit mining on the face of this mountain. I did have a neighborhood meeting. I sent out almost 905 notices for that meeting. We had 100 people show up. 100% were in favor of taking the C out of this chart, prohibiting mining in Mountain Residential 1. We have over 18,501 petition signers resisting mining on the face of this mountain. We have over 4,000 Facebook followers on our Facebook page. Those are huge numbers. The Board of County Commissioners has those 18,501 petition signers. So they have all that. On your slides, the first page is the current MR1 zoning, which is the bottom band in pink. And you'll notice that there's a big old blip in there with the crosshatch, which is urban agriculture. So you may hear later that I am trying to take private property rights away from people. I've got 120 private acres in this MR1 zoning. I'm not stripping myself or anybody else of any private property right. In fact, that little blip there, if you go back into your pages, you will see that the original MR1 zoning is back there. It didn't have that blip in there. So a private individual on private land said, hey, I want to mine my land, and so I'm going to request a change in zoning from MR1 to UA. That's how that happened. It was Mr. McMurray. And so he was successful in getting this rezoned because he had no resistance on that side of the mountain. This is the Hat-6 side. And there was very few neighbors. There were very few cricks. There was very little resistance to that. He was successful in doing that. There's a mine there today. Now, what he did is he brought all the commissioners up, including the Planning and Zoning Commission, and he said, I'm only going to do this for my own use. I'm not going to export it. I'm not going to sell it. Since then, he sold that land in that pit. So someone else owns it today, and it is being exported because there was no assignability agreement to what he promised to get that rezoned and to get the LMO approved and the CUP, because UA does allow a CUP and extractive mining if you're successful in getting that done. The second page shows you, I expanded that a little bit to show you how close the city of Casper is to that MR1 zoning. The next page, I copy and describe MR1 zoning. And if you look back at the Casper land use plan or the development plan that we talked about, if you go through that, browse through that, you will see that that MR1 zoning was specifically intended for residential and the beauty of preserving Casper Mountain. This was not intended for extractive mining. The next page is the MR1 initially. That's the way it was before Mr. McMurray got that changed. So I'm telling you, there is an out to this. If you don't like it, get it rezoned to UA and go through the process, the public process. So we're not taking nobody's private property rights away. The next page is all these little blue lines are the streams and tributaries coming off the face of that mountain. You can see the darker shade is the top of the mountain, and all these little blue lines are streams and creeks going down to the river. That's MR1 zoning. Those are alluvial and top surface flows into the river. Not conducive to sand and gravel mining extraction at all. The next page is some of the mule deer habitat, and this is shaded in this crucial legend. So it's crucial to mule deer habitat on the face of that mountain. The next page is that article from 1938 I tell you about. The next page, I did do the conditional use permit and the approval criteria of it. It's almost impossible to fit extractive mining in that conditional use permit. And I think we will be back at some point talking about that with the commission. I think that's all I had. We are not prohibiting, and we are supportive of extractive mining, just not in a residential zoned band across the face of the mountain, which leads up to our crown jewel of Casper Mountain and what we stand for. I thank you for your time. If you have questions, I did copy from the zoning resolution, the definition of extractive industries. It doesn't fit in my front yard or any of the residences up there or any of the people that have wells on Squaw Creek, which this 3,400 acres of state land and the current lease is within MR1 zoning. It just doesn't work up on the face of the mountain. There is other places, RAM and UA, that you can get a conditional use permit and mine extract for gravel. That concludes my presentation. And I would like for you to respectfully consider reverting back to prohibitive of extractive industries on the face of this mountain. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Werger. Questions for the applicant?
So a quick question. When you noticed when the 2022 resolution came out, what efforts were put in place, or were there discussions about the having the conditional use permit option in the extractive industries section of the resolution? Did anything happen? Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Mr. Commissioner, I believe that was put in there and no one even noticed it in this resolution change. And if you go back like I did on 12/20/2022, 21 months ago, and watch that Board of Commissioners meeting, you will see that the commissioners, they changed that resolution through the day. And it was a violent group in the audience that were protesting allowing that to be voted on that day. And There was one nay vote, and his reasoning was, hey, these people are upset. They didn't get a chance to look at this thoroughly. I really believe it was stuck in there and not realized that C allowed MR1 zoning to be extracted mined with a successful CUP. So, Mr. Commissioner, I will tell you that I don't think the public had a chance. And there's two people that go to every county commissioner meeting, and they call it an illegal resolution because they weren't given 30 days after the final changes to review it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Did you have something? No. Sabrina, you have anything?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Werger.
You bet.
I will, that's an awful lot of information you gave us. So we're trying to digest this stuff as you're talking and we're reading, and I'm not that good.
I've struggled myself for the last year.
Okay. All right. You guys have anything before we move into public hearing? All right. I'd like to call the public hearing open for the consideration of text amendment TA 24-01, and that is the Werger proposed amendment concerning the 2022 Natrona County Zoning Resolution 4622. This time, would like to ask anyone in favor of the text amendment proposal to please come forward. And now that we're in the public hearing realm, please keep in mind that we're limiting comment to 3 minutes. Mr. Werger.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm Greg Werger, 7,000 Coates Road. I and 18,501 petitioners are in favor of removing this C. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Again, let's get your name and address, please.
Helen Hoff, 611 Goodstein Drive. That is the southwest corner of Goodstein and the Mountain Road. And I've lived here 40 years. I participated in one discussion about along Outer Belt, but I got no notice about a change in the I've been here 40 years. I would have noticed. I am in favor of removing that C. Thank you.
Thank you. And as apparently we've got a lot of folks up here, if you guys want to jump in and ask a question, just feel free to do so. I'm not going to ask you every time if you've got a question for the applicant. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the text amendment, please come forward.
Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you for being generous with your time. My name is Michael Fernald. I'm a Natrona County resident and Secretary of the Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance. I'm here to express full support for the Werger text amendment. This amendment is vital for protecting a small yet significant area of our county, 0.5% of the whole county, the face of Casper Mountain. Mining is inappropriate for this area due to its mixed residential, accessory agricultural, and recreational value and should be prohibited. While the mining industry contributes to Natrona County, the MR1 zone has unique land use priorities. The Casper Mountain Land Use Plan and zoning documents specify that MR1 is intended to protect areas with steep slopes and natural hazards with special development standards that do not apply to most other zones. Some have argued that this amendment infringes on property rights, but this misunderstands how our society functions. The Founding Fathers recognized the idea of a social contract where citizens agree to specific rules and limits in exchange for protection and order. Mining, unlike the right to free speech, is not a God-given right. It is a regulated activity subject to laws designed to prevent harm. Zoning laws, like those that prevent mining in residential areas, are part of this agreement that we live in for a safe and structured community. Casper Mountain is one of our community's three greatest treasures, the Platte River and citizenry being the other two. People come here for natural beauty, outdoor activities, and quality of life. Whether it's hiking, skiing, or simply enjoying the view, Casper Mountain is central to the well-being of residents. The face of Casper Mountain, the first thing people see, is the curb appeal of our community. One stated county goal is to encourage open space on the north face of Casper Mountain to protect the watershed and viewshed. Allowing mining at the base of Casper Mountain would disrupt this natural resource. Yes, you might get something from mining, but at what cost? MR1 is for living, not digging. Over 18,000 people agree the recreational, residential, and scenic value of the area, at least at Coates Road and Squaw Creek, is something to cherish and preserve. Once mining begins, the alterations to the landscape and the disruption to outdoor activities cannot easily be reversed, if ever. This is about keeping what makes the community attractive to new residents and new local businesses. The zoning resolution says the purpose of a CUP is to ensure that any proposed use is carefully reviewed and subject to the conditions that limit its adverse effects. At the very least, the use must not impair adjacent property or alter the neighborhood's character. What makes the character of an MR1 neighborhood? The intent and purpose of MR1 district is to establish and protect areas for low-density residential and accessory agricultural uses in accordance with the 2022 Casper Mountain Land Use Plan. Accessory agricultural uses generally include small-scale farming or ranching, livestock rearing, and gardening, activities that support the primary residential function. Based on this definition alone, mining in MR1 could not otherwise leave the neighborhood's character unaltered, and therefore, no conditional use permit should ever be allowed for mining in MR1.
Mr.
So why
Farag, you've
leave it?
reached your 3 minutes. Would
So
you
why
please
leave
wrap
it an
up?
option? Mr. Harvey is going to finish the rest of this. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. My name is Jim Harvey. I live on Squaw Creek. I'm the treasurer for CMPA. MR1 is for living, not for digging. Does allowing mining in MR1 align with long-term goals for our community? The Planning Commission staff notes highlight the possibility of mitigating impacts managed through strict conditions and requirements. Traffic, noise, viewscape, radiation are inevitable. Even with traffic studies, noise regulations in MR1 isn't designed to handle mining, overburdening community resources. In 135 years of Casper's existence, only one public road has been built to cross MR1, Casper Mountain Road. Other small county roads like Coates, County Road 509, and Garden Creek aren't built to handle heavy equipment, traffic that mining would bring. No number of conditions can fully protect two of Casper's natural gems, Casper Mountain and Natrona County citizens. While the mining industry is a contributor to our county, given the nature of MR1, it's hard to imagine any mining project that could meet the requirements for a CUP without compromising the character and value of the area, which is why it was a bad idea to add mining as a conditional use a year and 9 months ago, and why it should be prohibited now. MR1 is for living, not digging. Please vote in favor of the approval of the Werger text amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Others wishing to speak in favor of the application? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Ruth James. I live at 5195 Squaw Creek Road and have for nearly 30 years, and I've lived in the Casper area for 60-ish years. Greg has referred to the effect and damages to Squaw Creek and its drainage. This does not merely apply to Squaw Creek. It applies to every wash, permanent or intermittent, creek, and a number of permanent springs all along the front face of Casper Mountain from Hatsix Road to where the Webb Creek and Indian Springs areas meet the highway. And all of the drainages along there drain into our Platte River and go all the way down from there. So Squaw Creek is not the only area that will be affected. There are bogs up there that are extremely large, many, many acres, and they hold the surface water like a sponge and feed it in all through the summer and into the fall and keep these water courses running permanently. They also keep all our wells running. And this will affect hundreds and hundreds of people, because if this continues as mining as is proposed, it'll go from one end to the other all the way through that zoned area, stripping the gravel off and disrupting the downward subsurface and surface flows of water. So for this reason, I am in support of Mr. Werger's removal of the C.
Thank you, Ms. James.
Yes.
I said thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Jim Harvey, Squaw Creek. Did I forget to mention I'm in favor?
Thank you. Hello.
Good evening. My name's Paulette Bray. I live at 7150 Coates Road, and I am in favor of removing the C.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is William Sugart. I live at 4190 Coates Road. The end of the road going out onto CY was paved. We had to, as you know, the residents of that area had to pay for some of the price of that paving. This was not paved with cement underneath it. It was not paved to like 4 inches thick. You take the big trucks, if they're going to run up and down the road, that road will be destroyed within a very short period of time. It was built for residential, not, mining. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Doug Urban. I live at 5060 Squaw Creek Road. I have a registered well, or two wells, a registered spring, and water rights along Squaw Creek. This is what I use for my drinking water. This is what I use to water my livestock. This is what I use to water my garden. If it gets disrupted, I have to pull that water from somewhere. Hauling water is pretty expensive, and it's an encumbrance on me. So I am in favor of removing the C.
Thank you. Good evening.
Anna Knope, 4760 Ross Ridge Road. I'm in favor of removing the C. Just to go on to explain about the water, our wells, like our well in general, is 8 feet. The aquifer is shallow. It doesn't come up from the ground like a normal well. It's basically run up from the mountain. So any mining is going to destroy most of our wells. I know they say they can mitigate that, but you can't. My ranch family has looked for water. If we can find it, I don't know. They haven't so far. So their shallow aquifers, our wells will most likely be disrupted. And again, that's where our cattle feed, we live off of that, our grass, we drink it, everything. So. And in our case, you can't haul water back to where we live. The hill is insane, the winters are rough, and it just wouldn't be possible. I'm in favor of the amendment to remove C. Thanks.
Thank you.
Evening,
Good evening.
Commissioners. Paul Van Heist, 5485 Coates Road. Just want to say I'm in favor of removing the C. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good evening. Steve Logan, 5280 Squaw Creek. I stand before you today with deep concerns regarding the proposed establishment of a gravel pit on Squaw Creeks and Coates Road. This venture process significantly risks not only the public health, but also the delicate ecosystem that surrounds it. It is imperative that we consider both the health and impacts of silica exposure, the broader ecological ramifications of the proposed, while also challenging the prioritization and monetary gain over human lives and environmental well-being. First, address the critical issue of the silica exposure. Silica is a common mineral found in gravel, pores, serious health risk, and airborne particles that inhaled over time. Studies have shown prolonged exposures of dust lead to respiratory problems, including silicosis, lung cancer, and other debilitating lung diseases. These health impacts are particularly concerning for individuals with pre-existing health conditions. I have 2 kids that do have issues with asthma and breathing issues. More established, the gravel pit closely proximity to residential area raises the risk of exacerbating health issues with our community. The release of the silica dust into the air possesses a direct threat to the well-being of residential, especially those living near the proposed site. We cannot ignore the potential for the surge in the health-related complaints. In addition to the health concerns, we must also consider the broader ecological impacts of the proposed gravel pit. The extraction gravel from this area could disrupt delicate habitats, disturb wildlife, and contribute to soil erosion and sedimentation in the nearby waterways. Our actions today will have lasting repercussions on the environment, affecting not only our generations, but those to come. As stewards of the land, we have a responsibility to prioritize the health of our ecosystem and the well-being of our community members and short economic gains. Not everything in life has to be about money. We must challenge the prevailing belief that monetary profit should not take precedence over human lives and environmental preservation, our natural heritage. As Theodore Roosevelt eloquently put, it is a sacred legacy that we must cherish and protect for future generations. I am in favor of the C.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Phyllis Borger, and I live at 7,000 Coates Road, and I'm in favor of removing the C. And I'm well-versed on this.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
you didn't
I
get
said I'm well-versed on this. I live with Greg. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening.
Commission, Jason Canope, 4760 Ross Ridge Road. There's currently 220 wells that are directly underneath this MR1 zoned residential living area. If you were to allow mining along the face of this mountain, that's 240 people that rely on the water that directly comes through MR1. It doesn't go around, it doesn't come up from the ground, it comes from the top of the mountain. We currently have 14 water rights that directly is fed through MR1. We live in MR1. Our water is anywhere between 5 and 8 feet deep in all of our wells. We have a lot of artesian and surface water rights. The aquifer is an uncapped, shallow, 5 to 30 foot deep aquifer that all of us live off of. So it is very fragile because there's no cap to protect the aquifer. The next aquifer in this range is around 2,000 to 3,000 feet deep. There's 6 wells that are drilled to 1,000 foot in this area. 2 of them have hit water in a very poor quantity, and the only reason they hit water is because they hit a fracture in the mountain. It's not that they hit an aquifer. The next aquifer is much farther down, and if you were to drill that far at $40 a foot, that's quite the cost that every resident will have to endure. And just the energy cost to lift water 3,000 feet would pretty much take everyone off of this living space. So MR1 is critical to the residents that live in MR1 and directly below MR1 all the way to the river. Thank you. I am for taking the C off of this.
Good evening.
Hello, evening. I'm Robert Strowman, 4145 Coast Road. And about 90% of the people that live on Coast Road are retired. They're living on fixed incomes. We don't have the option of picking up and moving. And with the traffic on the Coast Road, will be devastating to us people that are on oxygen 24/7, and I'm for removing the C.
Thank you. Good evening.
My name is Kelly Walsh. I live at 3620 Carmel Drive. I'm within a half mile to 3/4 of a mile of the east end of this project. I think it's pretty clear why we're all opposed to remove, we want to remove C from this. It's a water issue. In my case, it would be a dust issue, but I have family that lives on Wolf Creek, and they're opposed to it. I'm opposed to it. I don't understand why the mining company thinks it's all right to build a lake up there to catch all this water that everybody else in this room is dependent upon. We don't need a lake up there. We don't need a fishing hole up there. What we need is to protect the streams and the water that comes off of Casper Mountain. And if you care about the people of Natrona County, you will remove that C. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Bruce Coates, 5454 Coates Road. I'm actually also the manager for the Field Creek Ranch. Our ranch has been established, we've been in business for 105 years. Up there, we have 14 water rights that we have. Most of them are in a low aquifer. A lot of, we have all the full rights to Field Creek, the Field Creek itself. And it's our dependence for our cattle, our irrigation and all, that we don't mess with this. And then, so, I kind of look out throughout the neighborhood and all these people, and Bob was talking, these are older people. The stress right now is killing them. I talk to them every day, the stress, they wake up in the middle of the night, what's going to happen, Bruce, what's going to happen? I said, I don't know. We're going through this process. That's why we're here. So, yeah, I'm in favor of getting rid of the C. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Hello.
Hello. My name is Deborah Shigart, and I live at 4190 Coates Road. This could possibly decrease the value of our homes, which is less taxes paid to the county. And like someone said, we've paid for that road out of our own money, and it'll be destroyed before we know it. Plus the traffic going off Coates Road onto the highway is going to be terrible. It's going to be a dangerous intersection. And I'm in favor of taking the C off. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Christy Sutton, Squaw Creek Road. I'm in favor of removing the C from this.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Linda Vineyard and I live at 5305 Coates Road. And I'd like to just kind of share a little bit about what has happened in the last couple of weeks. There was, last week on Labor Day, there was these cattle trucks, semis carrying cattle going up and down our road, which this happens once a year. But my husband and I were trying to be out on the front porch, and it was so dusty there that we couldn't even stand on the porch. And I was trying to imagine what it would be like, gravel trucks going down all the time, every single day. And we can't exist like that. It just is not, it's not healthy for any of us. And then I would like to share another time. This week, we were blessed enough to have a torrential rain in our area. And we need the rain in our area, so we were very grateful to have it. And it only rained for probably 30 minutes, but it was like a tropical storm type rain. And after it was over, my husband walked down to the edge of our property, and there's this gully there, and it was running bank full. And I started thinking about what this is going to do to the beautiful area up there down by Squaw Creek. I'm sure the banks were running full at that time also. And you put a gravel pit up there, and you take away the natural grasses, and you take away rocks that help erosion. I kind of remember a kind of a commercial that said that by the man who wants to do the gravel pit, that rocks help erosion. Well, if you remove the rocks up there, what's going to happen? It's going to be erosion. And I am in favor of removing the C.
Hello.
Hello. Krista Cooper, 5990 Coates Road, and I am in favor of removing the C in the text amendment. Extractive mining will directly affect the health, safety, and well-being of my family and those of all my neighbors and those down below us. Thank you.
Hi.
My name is Riley Fars. I live at 5950 Coates Road, and I'm in favor of removing the C.
Good evening.
Hello, everybody, commissioners. My name is Roberto Fars. I live on 5950 Coates Road. I am in favor of removing the C because I think it will actually protect my water rights, because I have shallow wells, which I water my animals, drink. And also, I'm there because I want that well water. I'm not interested in other types of waters. And I believe by removing the C will also decrease my risk of dying of a traffic accident, and also in turning Coates Road into I-80. Because we know what happens on I-80 with there's snow and multiple semis. It's very dangerous. I think, again, we're not against mining. I wish I had a mine, but not in a residential area where it can affect so many people. So therefore, I am in favor of removing C and keep it in County Road 253 instead of I-80. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Condell Edwards. I'm at 3870 Squaw Creek Road. I'm probably the furthest one away that's got a well, and my well is only 40 foot deep. So I'm in favor of keep getting rid of that C. The other thing is I worked at the mines for 18 years. They're talking about silica. We had to put monitors 5 miles away, and we were still setting them off at the mines. So just imagine what it's going to do a mile away or into the city of Casper on how far they were going. With the prevailing winds that everybody seems to forget that we have around here from all these other mines that were with prevailing winds, they go away from the city pretty much. There's like one that hits the city. The rest of them go away from the city. So where he's wanting to put it and proposing it, it will definitely hit the city with the prevailing winds and the winds we get. I know I've had to replace my roof 3 times, and I've lived there 25 years because of the winds. So I'm in favor of getting rid of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Welcome.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Ramsel. I live at 6510 Coates Road. This mine will be directly out my front door when I step outside. My well is 8 feet deep. We have livestock. If we lose our water, Kyle has said that he will maybe drill us another well or something like that. But how long do we have to go without water? How are we going to take care of our animals? He says it won't hurt the value of my home. I love it up there. It's a perfect place to live. It's beautiful. The neighbors are fantastic. We would not have bought our house if there was a mine there. So I know that it will affect the value of my home. It will affect my neighbors, some of which live within 100 feet of the road or 100 yards of the road, and you're going to have semis driving across there with, you know, they can't let their grandchildren out to play. You can't, it's dangerous, and I really hope that you guys put the consideration into this and into what this will do to all of us. It's a big deal to us, and it's our health, our livelihood, it's our retirement, and I really hope that we don't lose that. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the text amendment? Hi there.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Juby. I live at 5285 Squaw Creek, and I'm in favor of removing the C from this amendment. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Sawyer. I live at 4081 Swingle Acres Road. I am in favor of removing the C. I have a couple small children, love to be outside. We have a well. We ride our bikes in the neighborhood. It's just, we need to remove the C.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, I'm Susie Urban. I live at 5060 Squaw Creek Road. I actually grew up on Squaw Creek, and we've been told that if the water, if our wells go dry, that we'll be provided with water. Well, when I was growing up on Squaw Creek, when I was in 6th grade, our well actually did go dry from a neighbor who was trying to make theirs more, produce more water. So I know that it didn't happen overnight to get us water. It took months for us to put in a cistern and for my dad to get a tank to be able to go down and get water and bring it back to us to put in the tank. So we had to actually just 5-gallon buckets of water, and we'd go into my grandparents to shower once a week. And As far as the house prices, it affecting the home prices, my parents could not sell the home because then you had to have water in order for a bank to loan. So my parents were even unable to sell our home to get us somewhere where we had water for quite a while. It took them a long time to get another well. So I know that it's a very adverse effect on the water there and affecting our homes and our lives. And we too are moved back. I moved back after I got married. We moved back to Squaw Creek, and that's our retirement. We love it there. We have a creek that I know it will be affected. That waters our horses. You know, so it's not only our well water, it's not only our spring, it's our creek as well. So I'm in favor of removing the C. Thank you.
So we're still in the public hearing here. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the text amendment removing the C? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Good evening.
I'm Cheryl Juarez, and I live at 4085 Coates Road, and I'm in favor of removing the C.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, good evening. Lisa Fernald, 5050 Coates Road, and I'm in favor of removing the C. Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi. My name is Carrie Brown, as I live at 3320 Carmel. My mom she just spoke in favor of removing it. I just wanted to say that the stress this has caused these people is unimaginable. I remember I was on vacation in February of this year, and my mom texted me and said that this gravel pit is proposed. So from February till now, every single night, the stress this causes people. And stress is a huge factor of why people can die from stress. So I'm in favor of removing this.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Greg Vineyard. I live at 5305 Coates Road. I've built a home there in 1975. We developed a spring directly runoff from Casper Mountain. Took me 2 years to develop enough water to sufficiently provide for our home. It's fragile, terribly fragile, and we are grateful for the water that's provided for us. It's just a shame that our water resource can be threatened in this day and age. And I'm in favor of removing the C from the amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Vineyard. Hello.
Hello. I'm Penny Van Heis, and we're at 5485 Coates Road. We have a 60-foot well, very fragile well. We're concerned about what's going to happen or what could happen. So we really hope you do take this into consideration. And I'm for removing the C.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, I think we might have exhausted all the in favors of the Cs. Okay, moving into those opposed to the text amendment. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kyle True at 1474 Wheeler Drive. I am with Prism Logistics, so I wanted to come first because some of what's been referred to is our proposed gravel pit at the south end of Coates Road. Tonight's not the time to address that and those specific issues, so there are a lot of things that I'd like to address that have been spoken to, but I don't think tonight's issue is regarding that. I think tonight we're talking about all the way from Hat 6 virtually to Goose Egg. And the comments tonight have been about one very specific area, water drainage, et cetera. I think there are four key things for you to consider with taking the foothills of Casper Mountain and removing people's private property rights. I do think it's a private property takings. There are well over a dozen, maybe 15 ranches in this area. I've spoken to 4 private property owners who would like our company, Prism Logistics, to come and develop their gravel resource when we can. There is an interest of people in doing so. It hasn't been historically done as much, although there were gravel pits in this area. But there's a current interest that private landowners have fee surface, fee minerals, and this would remove their ability to do so. Secondly, this state has a tremendous amount of regulation and legislation. We have the Department of Environmental Quality that regulates all of this, and I think it's inappropriate for a county to come in and say, well, we're going to take, non-city, zoning has great purpose, especially inside of cities. When you get outside of a city onto fee surface, fee minerals, I think it's much more of a challenge to justify zoning. Thirdly, I've looked all over this county. It's a challenge to find gravel suitable for the county's needs in our county. I can find you sand easily. I can find you clay very, very easily. I can find dirt. I can find shale. But the foothills of Casper Mountain, which are really MR1, is the remaining resource in our county of significant aggregate. So if we make this off limits, then we'll be bringing things in from Douglas, from much further away, and that's just going to raise all of our costs. Lastly, I would say my concern is for private landowners because there's a question with this Teton County lawsuit going on if a county can impose conditional use permits on state land. There's also a long-held ruling in the Ninth Circuit, which oil companies use all the time when a county says you need a conditional use permit to drill your oil well. It's Ventura County versus Gulf Oil. It was confirmed by the Ninth Circuit. I know that's not our circuit, but federal land, it's sort of settled until the Supreme Court takes it up, that federal land cannot have a conditional use permit by a county as a requisition for, or a requirement for federal minerals development. So this would possibly only affect the private landowners in MR1 and not the state and not the federal, and I don't think that's the intent. So I think the concerns are more specific and maybe should be dealt with the CUP and not with all of MR1.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. Good evening.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Chair and members. Dan Sabrowski, Barnum, Wyoming. I can get mine a little shorter now. Mr. True took some of my thunder. The number one, of course, the geographic location. I know we started off saying MR1 was the face of the mountain. When you really look at that plan, or the zoning map, it does go Highway 220 over to Hat 6, and it really is the dividing line between the face and the foothills. So that swath encompasses a lot of private land and state land. So again, as Mr. True said, the idea of takings ends up opening up a litigation battle, which I don't want to mention a name because I promised I wouldn't, but one of our 5 elected officials said they would be shocked if the state didn't join in a lawsuit to protect their rights. So again, I know you were hit with a lot of concern and emotion. I have friends on Coates Road that I've been concerned with their worry about this gravel pit. I feel like some of the concerns a little bit pie in the sky because we do have two gravel pits in town. One over in Mills run by Mobile and one over in Knife River, or Knife River runs over in Evansville. Truly, if there were some health issues, we'd be seeing some reports out of there. The water issue, I believe, is a possible concern, but we have yet to have a hydrologist really firm up what that would look like. And if a mine could actually damage those water systems. Possibly, yes, but none of us here are hydrologists to really explain what's going on. You would think those reports would get put in there. But so back to the idea of taking those rights that have, and maybe they were given only a couple of years ago. It's one thing for the government to hand over some rights, but then to turn around and try to take them back, I think that's what opens up the litigation. And I think it would be heavy litigation once the state joins in to protect their interest. One more aspect, the gravel pits that we do have, and as a contractor, I buy gravel, it is a monopoly. The prices are way higher than they should be because of the monopoly, and a new source would help mitigate those costs throughout the county. And those particular aggregates through the foothills are far more superior than the limestones and dolomites we're getting now. So our sidewalks, our streets will hold up better with those stronger aggregates if that's where this leads into. So I'm for leaving the C and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Brant Hedquist, 7200 Rocky Nor Road. I'm in favor of leaving the C. I've been working with the state engineer's office and stuff for 7 years to get a permit to dig a stock pond, develop some springs. Now DEQ has come in and told me that I have to have one of these permits to dig that hole on my property. So that's my main objection to removing it. As a property owner, it would affect my rights to what I want to do with my property.
So I'm a little, Mr. Hedquist,
Yes.
is your property in this MR1 area or?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I know my neighbor has 600, I think it's 600 acres. And I got 138. We're one residential lot each. So, I mean, you guys just kind of ruined what we got.
Just one question. So
Yes.
this would fit under the extracted industries part of the table that we're talking about here? You said digging a stock pond?
Yeah, stock
Okay.
pond.
And it would fall under the extractive industries?
That's what DEQ tells me.
Okay.
They have threatened legal action if I start digging. Because I want to make it about 6 acres on the surface and go down. But I don't want to just stack all that dirt on my property, because then I got to try and control the dust and weeds. But they tell me if I drive a truck down the road with a load of dirt on it, I'm mining, and I will go to prison without permits.
Thank you, sir.
So, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the text amendment taking away the C? Anyone else? Last call. Good evening.
Hi. I'm Arliss Hedquist, and I have owned that property that Brant is speaking of for a long time. He now has part of it. We working together to try and make it lush rather than prickly. I've been out there for a long time. I feel like I've paid my dues. We have 1.33 miles of unmaintained road to get there. And when we first moved there, we lived 2 years with no electricity, had to bring it in on our own. So we've made a lot of investment, not only in dollars, but in time. And I think we need to be very careful about making rules, because all of us have a stake in this. And ours is, we want this pond, we want to make a place where we can grow fruit trees and berries and things around our pond. And we're trying very hard to do it in a right way. And so I'm asking you, please, be very careful and not emotional in making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Last chance. All right. Call a closure to the public hearing on the consideration of the text amendment for the Natrona County, the 2022 Natrona County zoning resolution 4622. So thank you all for your input. There's a ton of information there. You guys have taken up a lot, good part of your evening to come here and talk with us. So again, thank you all for your input. So Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commissioners. Discussion. Good point. Good point. So, Mr. Werger, if you'd like to come up and provide some follow-up, again, as rebuttal to what you've heard tonight from the folks that want to keep the C.
Yes, Greg Werger, 7,000 Coates Road. It's 2 miles by 15 miles, and it is on the face of this mountain. You can go to Gruner Brothers' porch, and you can sit up there and look exactly at my house, and out front of my house is where this proposal is currently, and where all this state band is, that only gets the state 60 cents a ton out of $18. That's why Prism Logistics has leased 3,400 acres in MR1. Make no mistake about it. If I was a private landowner, I could apply to this same commission to change that zoning from MR1, which MR stands for Mountain Residential. If the zoners wanted it to be a mining place up there, they'd have called it MM1, Mountain Mining 1. But they didn't. They called it Mountain Residential, and that's where the people live. And so I think the C should come back out. Make no mistake about it. It was out for 18 years, and no one complained. And now that it got put in there, miraculously, we got people leasing 3,400 acres. And you gotta, do you wonder how it got in there? At the cost of $300,000 for that book to the taxpayers? That's what it costs us, $300,000 to do that resolution. And so I think it should come back out and we move on as Casper citizens with our crown jewel up there. And that same package will go to the county commissioners. And for the life of me, and I haven't heard why staff would recommend denial of this. He didn't give a reason. Just denial. I don't understand where we're going here. That C should come back out. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Werger. Questions for Mr. Werger? Sabrina, you still there?
I am.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so discussion.
Question, Mr. Chairman. So the current rules were adopted in 2022. When would they be up for review? Not just this segment, but the entire regulation packet?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, there's not a specific timeline as to when the resolution as a whole would be up for review.
I do recall
In
some discussion
general.
of that, like, I think it was 10 years or 12 years or something like that, so it was a long time.
There is talk of reviewing some of the issues that we've ran into, but we have not made any progress actually moving forward with that as of yet.
Total rewrite, though, was a big deal and a long-term.
Correct, Mr.
planning.
Chair. It took quite some time for these rules to be updated in the first place.
I think
Thank
it was
you.
20 years. It was at least 20, I think it was a 2000. Yeah.
Yes, the last one we had was 2000, but once the decision was made to change these rules, I think even that process took a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. What you had, Ray? Anything else?
I have questions. Do we have a motion or do you want to have a discussion?
I was thinking we discuss it first, and then if you feel the urge to present a motion, by all means, do so.
Mr. Chairman, just for discussion, I think we're hearing two different things. One, we're being asked to make a decision about a gravel pit, but we don't have that application, right? That's not in front of us. We weren't provided that. That's probably coming, but that's not what we're being asked to make a decision on or recommendation tonight. So we're being asked to restrict, prohibit mining in all the mountain residential. Maybe it should be restricted, but I don't know if this is the format for doing that. The format for doing that should come through that 10-year planning. There is a process for amending the plan, but it seems like it's somewhat restricted or limited in doing it in this method. And like I would say, maybe mining shouldn't happen on that mountain. I'm not sure about it, but I'm not sure this is the process or the format for making that determination. So I'm not ready to make a motion, but I did want to have that conversation. I think we're being asked to consider two different things, but actually only one request is in front of us, and that is to prohibit mining in that entire area. That's my understanding, but that's my comment.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on just a second, Sabrina. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, so I agree. I agree with Commissioner Schulte. We're not looking at a particular mine. We're looking at conditional use permit process in this area, right? But I still think, what I'm concerned about is when you look up there and you look at the mountain zones, mountain residential zones, there's only that C that's kind of sticking out there. So in our packet, our approval criteria for the amendment, for considering our amendment, is it consistent with the purposes and organization of the zoning resolution? And so regardless of thinking about a future mine, is having extractive industries in a mountain residential area, is that consistent with the zoning resolution? And I wonder if the planners who, and all the money and time that went into that, maybe they got it wrong. And so my question is it consistent with the zoning resolution to have extractive industries in that mountain residential area? So that's what I'm thinking about.
Sabrina, go ahead.
So I pretty much echo what they just said. The text amendment is what's in front of us, and there's been a lot of talk about the conditional use permit, which I would say has pretty strict criteria on it, and I think it's there for a reason, to make sure that the mountain is preserved, and I think that's why the C was put in there, was mostly for preservation. And looking at the criteria for the CUP, it is pretty restrictive, so I'm not sure that removing this C for the entire MR1 zoning would be appropriate.
Okay. Anything, Robert?
I think that the mountain residential should stay residential. I don't think it's a place for mining, commercial mining. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion.
Can I, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
One more
Great. Mr.
2
Schultz.
cent comment. And just hearing commissioners talk about CUP, one of the presenters tonight that presented in favor of removing the C made the statement that I don't know how anyone could get a CUP approved for mining on Casper Mountain. And I think that's probably a pretty accurate statement. I think that would be pretty accurate. I think it would be very, very difficult to get a CUP approved for mining on Casper Mountain. So I feel like there is that check that's in place. So I wanted to add that comment.
Thank you. Time for motions. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I make a motion, let me get this right here. I make a motion to approve MS 24-2 based on the facts as presented here.
So your motion is to remove the C.
To remove the C, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second in favor of text amendment 24-01. And I hope as we're all on the same wavelength here tonight, that would be to remove the C from the Natrona County zoning resolution and that chart that we see there on the screen. Okay, so my 2 cents worth. I intend to vote nay. And my reason being that 30 square miles, that's tying up a tremendous amount of potential. And I hear every one of you talk tonight about your water resources and the dust and the traffic. Believe me, if I lived on Coast Road, I would be right there with you. I'm not sure this is throwing the entire 30 square miles away for this one application is where we can go, is where we need to go. Again, the conditional use permit, DEQ is going to get involved. Water would be involved, you know, potentially paving a road all the way, and YDOT's going to get involved, and everybody's going to have their finger in the pie if this goes, if we're to actually get an application in our hands. But I think that doing away with mining in the entire MR1 is not the way to go. So it's my intention to vote nay tonight.
Mr. Chairman, we are having discussion on this, and I as well will vote nay for mostly the same reasons. I feel like there was a plan approved. Maybe it wasn't ideal. It ought to come back in a few years and be reviewed in a complete package and not isolated situations. There's a CUP process in place, and like you said, if an application for a gravel pit shows up in front of us, which it hasn't, but we assume will, but we don't have that, then we can have that conversation then. I understand the people living in the MR1 zone wanting to change this. But I don't know that it's right to make that change that impacts everybody. And as you said, there's a lot of square miles in the MR1. I don't know that we should restrict them all. I think we deal with it in a case-by-case scenario. Thank you.
Any other comment?
I'll just add, I agree. You hate to change something like this on a single issue, and that's what's been brought up tonight. I do think we do have a process for the CUP. Sometimes you don't have as much faith in those processes as we've seen around town. Sometimes they don't completely work out. There's probably some good examples of that. But I also will be voting nay because we do have this process, and I think we need to flesh it out.
Robert or Sabrina, you guys have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Sabrina.
I agree. There's another process that's pretty restrictive on this. I'll be voting nay as well.
Okay.
I don't understand how we got the C back in there. I didn't realize it was in there.
I need to talk to you.
I didn't realize the C was in that 2022 resolution. But I don't think it belongs there. I just don't. That's my opinion.
Fair enough. Are we ready to move to the question? All right.
Sir, we have a point of order. I think before you vote on something that clear majority is against that C, maybe you ought to table it and do a little more research.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking MR1, we're all MR1 people. We're the ones that wanted to come out. And so you're gonna have a discussion against this?
I understand there's 18,000 plus people signed.
Yes.
I understand.
So we
And
would
you-
have
and
to
you
fight that
many of you
every time
represent
a
that.
gravel pit comes up. The same group of people would have to come in and fight that in MR1 if every time a proposal came up. We've spent an inordinate amount of money on this. So we gotta continue to do it because 18 years, it was gone. Just in the last 21 months, it was reappeared. Your logic is not sound, what you're talking about. People.
Thank you, Mr. Worker. Thank you.
Meeting's out of order.
Please. So we heard from the audience. Anyone here wishing to table anything we're doing tonight?
Well, we have a motion.
We do have a motion. You guys ready for the question?
Yes, sir.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission submit a due pass recommendation to the county commissioners that the C be removed. This is a little complicated. So the motion is that we approve removing the C. So all in favor of the motion to remove the C signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye.
Nay, aye.
So we have 1 in favor, 4 opposed. Thank you all for your input.
Sweet.
Who's lying in your pockets?
Says,